This is just a quick video to help explain Nuclide notation that will be used in Topic 7 for IB Physics. This is needed for both SL and HL levels. Please take a moment to read the success criteria for this video. Okay, so I've got a really simplistic diagram here of an atom. So in this center, we have the nucleus with the protons and neutrons held really tightly together. And we know that this picture is not in proportion because our nucleus is much, much smaller than the actual size of the atom. Surrounding the nucleus, we have our electrons, and yes, it shows here that they're moving in a circle, and no, that's not quite right. You do not need to go into the level of the quantum model of electrons that you would find in IB chemistry. In physics, we're just happy to use this simpler model and understand that the electrons, as they're moving, can be in different energy levels. But we will not go into the SPDF quantum levels and the different shapes. We'll stick with our simplistic, let's talk about them moving in an orbit. So once we have our atom and we have our nucleus with the number of protons and neutrons inside, first of all, let's just remind ourselves that it's the number of protons that are going to actually determine what the element is. We put that down here at the bottom, and to be honest, we really don't need it because as soon as this says lithium, I know that there has to be 3 protons. That's what all lithium atoms will have in common. What they might not have in common, though, is the number of neutrons. Now, we have the nucleon number up here, 7. That is the number of protons and neutrons. I could say it's the number of nucleons. That's just a word, if I want to be very general, refers to actual particles in the nucleus. It's kind of like I can say you're a student at school, or if I want to be more specific, I can say you're an IB student, or even more specific, I might say you're a first year or a second year IB student at school. If I don't want to give away what the particle is that I'm talking about in the nucleus, or maybe it doesn't matter, I'll use the word nucleon. Now, you might use slightly different words in your chemistry class. It might be instead of nucleon number, you say the mass number or atomic mass. Now, it's technically not atomic mass because that should be a average of the different isotopes, and we are actually just referring to the actual number of particles there. So technically for us, what we're going to be doing, mass number or nucleon number are more correct. The bottom number, which I've called the proton number, also called the atomic number. Either one works in this case. So if I want to calculate how many neutrons there are, I'm going to have to take the nucleon number, which is the total of protons and neutrons, and I will subtract away the number of protons, which would just leave me the number of neutrons. Now, a lot of the times we refer to the nucleon number as an A and the proton number as a Z. So this is our idea of nuclide notation. So what exactly is nuclide? Well, it's a very particular species of atom. We're looking at the nucleus of it with a very specific number of protons and neutrons. So not all lithium atoms will be the same, and we'll look at that in the next slide. Now, as I said before, the number of protons in an element are always the same, but what could differ is the number of neutrons in that nucleus. So I've got 2 different atoms here. One has 4 neutrons in the nucleus, and the other one has 3. Okay, so they are nuclei of the same element, but have different number of neutrons. Remember, I've already said it's the same element, so that means they have the same number of protons. Another way to say isotopes is that they will have the same proton number, but a different nucleon number. And it's really important that when you're talking about this and you say isotopes, you really should say they are atoms of. So don't just say they have the same protons and the same different number of neutrons. Please say the atoms that have. Okay, so there's a lot of words here that seem and start to sound very similar. So the nucleus, that's the little thing in the middle of the atom where the protons and neutrons are. Nuclide, that's a very specific type of nucleus of an atom with a specific number of protons and neutrons. The neutron is just a particle inside that nucleus that has no charge. And finally, nucleon is the name for any kind of particle that can be found inside a nucleus. So hopefully just a quick little video, but take a look at the success criteria. Hopefully now you can answer all of these things.